is your no bullshit guide to a happier life. Quick, but not necessarily easy tips to help you to squeeze every last drop of enjoyment out of your business and your life. My name is Helen Calvert. I'm a coach, a business owner and a parent, and I'm so happy to be here with you. I do swear occasionally, as the title suggests, so pop in your headphones if I'm not safe for little ears. Ready to go? Let's do this. This episode is sponsored by EZ Hampers. EZ are all about making the world a more sustainable place. This means when you buy one of their luxury award-winning hampers, you feel good about yourself and the planet. EZ give you the opportunity to reduce your environmental impact by choosing items from local producers or from companies who are committed to reducing their carbon footprint. Lisa and the EZ team take the stress out of gift giving by making sure that your recipient's needs and wants are not only prioritised but handled with care and attention. Their personalised service takes the hassle out of gift buying. Just give them a bit of information, either in-store in Altrincham, by phone or online, and they'll create the perfect hamper to suit you. They serve clients of all kinds, including those with special dietary needs and religious requirements. EZ Hampers ensure that their clients' gift-giving experience is both personal and professional. Want to find out more about their luxury award-winning hampers? Head to ezhampers.co.uk or check out the show notes for this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode, which is What Next? I always do a What Next episode at the end of each season of the podcast, and this episode is the final one of season 4. Ordinarily, then, I would be telling you what season 5 is going to be all about and when it's going to go live. But this time, I don't know the answers to that, and I'm hoping that you can help me with them. So I will definitely be taking a break over December. I will almost certainly be taking a break over January. So normally the new season hits in January. It's going to be a bit later in 2025. I do know that. The reason being that I am currently experiencing autistic burnout. Burnout is a phrase that I think we're all getting a bit more familiar with. And I say autistic burnout, not because I am an autistic person in burnout, although I am, but because I am burnt out due to being autistic. So it's different from burnout that occurs due to working too hard for too long under too much stress. It's not the work that is hurting me. I love my work. I have very carefully crafted a life that suits me down to the ground in terms of work, life, relationships. You know, the whole reason I started this podcast is because I have been through lots of things and have been able to create a life that I do love. So my life, the way I have created it, does not burn me out, and I am very, very fortunate that it is the case. However, being autistic in the world leads to levels of stress that just can't really be avoided, or perhaps can be avoided, but I haven't yet found the answers. So I will read this to you. This is from an article on thetransmitter.org by Sarah DeWitt from 30th of March 2020. She says, autistic burnout is the intense physical, mental, or emotional exhaustion, often accompanied by a loss of skills that some adults with autism experience. Cumulative effect of having to navigate a world that is designed for neurotypical people. Burnout varies greatly from person to person. Some autistic people experience it as an overwhelming sense of physical exhaustion. They may have more difficulty managing their emotions than usual and be prone to outbursts of sadness or anger. Burnout may manifest as intense anxiety or contribute to depression or suicidal behaviour. It may involve an increase in autism traits, such as repetitive behaviours, increased sensitivity to sensory input, or difficulty with change. And then it said a little bit further, which really resonated with me. Burnout can sometimes result in a loss of skills. An autistic woman who usually has strong verbal abilities may, for example, suddenly find herself unable to talk. Now, clearly, I'm still able to talk, and to reassure you, I have not had any suicidal ideations. However, feelings of sadness, anger, anxiety, outbursts thereof, it coming on fast, it coming on strong, and difficulty managing emotions and difficulty communicating, which may seem odd because obviously I have a podcast. I love communicating. It's one of my favorite things to do. But communicating person to person becomes much harder when I'm in any kind of autistic shutdown. And autistic burnout makes it really challenging. Now, what I am finding interesting is that I recognize that this is a state I have been in a number of times in my life. Every however many years, I get to a point where I just can't do it anymore, whatever it is, and it all goes horribly wrong. And in the past, I had no idea that I didn't even have any idea I was autistic until a couple of years ago. So I had no idea it was autistic burnout. And in the past, I have left jobs because clearly I'm done with that now. Or perhaps I've left a relationship, or perhaps I've left a friendship, or all of the above. I've basically thrown a grenade at things and gone, right, well, I clearly hate all of that now and run away. Fine. But I don't have a life I want to run away from anymore. And I also recognize now what is happening. It is severely unpleasant because whilst I'm sitting here now making this podcast, it's all fine. But I am not able to do all the things I want to do. I'm not able to communicate in the ways I want to communicate. And the input I'm receiving from the world at the moment is like grating on raw skin. And when I say input, it's really all the interactions with the world. So it could be how a person is with me in Tesco's, or a text message from a friend, or a letter from the doctor. Like anything that comes at me from the world. And of course, when things come at us that are ill intentioned, we're not going to respond well to that. And it's been a long time since I had people in my life who have ill intentions towards me. We're too old for that shit, aren't we? I've got boundaries in place. I don't have that crap anymore. So I'm not talking here about things that are willfully unpleasant, people being assholes. None of us have got time for that. I'm talking about well intentioned, lovely people just going about their day to day lives. And the way I'm receiving their input is hurting me. And yes, there are some people in my life who are very close to me. I'm talking here about my partner, maybe two or three friends, people who are really my people, and they are willing to learn a lot about how I receive the world. And they are amazing, and they are able to kind of amend perhaps how they provide me with input and certainly amend how they receive what I send back. However, I do not expect that from the majority of people in my life. I do not expect people to have to carefully craft every single word and message they send to me. I certainly don't expect it from the cashier in Sainsbury's. So I am having to think about what I can do long term to maybe receive the world differently. I don't know if that's possible because autism is a brain type. I can't change who I am, but I can change how I process what I've received. Now, this is a journey. That's such a cliche, isn't it? But I'm on a journey. But I am. And it's something that I am navigating in real time. By the time this podcast goes out, in about a month, I think, I may have stopped processing it publicly, or I may have figured it out, or I may still be deep in it. I've no idea. But at the moment, I'm making daily short videos and I'm putting them on a YouTube playlist called My Burnout Diaries, just so I can gradually process bit by bit what's happening and explain more about it. So if that sounds interesting, there will be a link to my Burnout Diaries playlist in the show notes in the description for this episode. What does all of this mean for this podcast? Well, normally at this point in the process, I have a pretty good idea of what the next season is going to look like. And I did have an outline for season 5. It isn't really lighting me up, so I don't think it was the right outline anyway. I am now in a place where planning out an entire podcast season is a little bit beyond me, just for now. But also, this is kind of the subject I'm really drawn to at the moment. The experience of being autistic in this world as a business owner, as a parent, as a girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, as a human. There is so much I would like to dig into, and I wonder if it would be interesting for you as well. It may be interesting for you because you are autistic, you suspect you're autistic, you know someone who's autistic, or you just want to learn more about different brain types. So, this episode is about me asking you a few different things. Firstly, what would you like from season 5 of this podcast? I am open to all suggestions because, like I say, I'm not in the greatest headspace right now. So, if someone comes up with an amazing suggestion, I am willing to consider it. So, what would you like to see from season 5 when it goes live at some point early 2025? Would you be interested in it being fully about autism, fully about neurodivergence, partly about that, not about that at all, about something completely different? What are your thoughts on that? And another consideration is that this podcast is not free for me to create. So I have been bringing sponsors in who have been amazing. And you'll have heard the shout out to the sponsor for this episode at the top of this episode. And they've been fantastic. And ordinarily, I'd be spending time now finding sponsors for season 5 because I can't do the podcast unless I have some sponsorship. However, I'm not in a headspace for figuring that out right now either. So, if you would like to be involved in sponsoring this podcast in some fashion, or if you have suggestions or know people who would, I am also open to that. Now, this is very much not like me. I like to be in control of everything I'm doing, but I am here open to suggestions because I have learned when I am struggling or not in the best place, the people around me, the people in my audience are amazing people and they often come up with fantastic ideas. So if you have any thoughts on that, I would love to hear them. How would I love to hear them? You can email me, helen@happier-life.co.uk. You should be able to contact me in a number of different ways via the show notes or description for this episode. You can follow me on Instagram, Happier Life Coach, and you can join my Facebook group, which is linked to in the show notes. So there are loads of ways you can find me and get in touch, and I strongly encourage you to do so, including joining the mailing list, which is also linked to, because I am definitely not going to be going live in January. So I want to make sure that you do stay in touch with me because I do put out a lot of content on social media and in my weekly newsletters. So this has been a little bit of a I don't really know what's happening kind of episode, which is very vulnerable for me because, of course, I usually like to come here and say, hello, this is what's happening. This is what we need to do. But I also have to take my own advice, which is the hardest thing any of us ever have to do. I am excessively kind to myself, but I need to be even more excessively kind to myself. And I think that it's useful for all of us to have a review and a bit of a recalibrate at times. You know, I know what my values are. I know how to squeeze every last drop of enjoyment out of life. But I think we can get into habits and patterns, and I need to take another look at what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and make sure that it's still something that is going to give me as much joy and fulfillment and passion and freedom and all that good stuff as it can. You know, adventure is another one of my values, and it's a constant adventure. You know, to use another cliche, life is an adventure, but it is. And the adventure I'm on at the moment is learning more and more about my brain type and how to make the most of my life with the brain that I have. So I think that is going to be something I'm going to be talking about more on this podcast, but it's definitely something I'm talking about a lot in my other content as well. So if it is of interest, please do stay in touch. And as I say, I would love to hear your thoughts on what next year, next season could look like. We are all in this together. I have a huge audience and I'm grateful for each and every one of you. I absolutely love the feedback I get about my episodes. I always love to hear it. And I feel like we're all figuring this life shit out together. So I would love to hear your thoughts instead of you hearing my thoughts, just for a little change. And let's see what we can come up with together for next year so that we can squeeze every last drop of enjoyment out of 2025. Until then, I will love you and leave you. Be excessively kind to yourselves. Thank you so much for listening. Did you know that my first book is now available to purchase online? Check out the show notes for details of how to get your hands on a copy. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you know when new episodes are up. If you would like to work with me one-to-one or follow more of my content, you can find out how in the show notes. See you next time.